Hello and welcome to Unsourced Wall. My name is Elvis, and as always, I'm your host. Alright, it's going to be kind of a short one because, once again, there was absolutely nothing that I thought was worthwhile to read or that caught my interest or that I didn't really have any expectations for and that I felt would just generally disappoint me. And I even include some movie news. Let's start off with the kind of big piece of news this week, which was that the Venture Brothers got canceled. Although there are some conspiracy theorists that are saying that it didn't really get canceled. It's all just a false flag operation by Adult Swim and WB and AT&T and HBO Max in order to get us to care about the show so that we clamor for it for when they eventually planned to put on HBO Max. And that's kind of insane because I doubt that anyone involved, especially the higher-ups, would have this plan in place for Venture Brothers. If that was as important to anybody in a power position at WB or AT&T or Cartoon Network or Adult Swim, we would have gone more than just 7 seasons in almost 20 years. So with that out of the way, yeah, it's canceled for the time being. Adult Swim are saying that they want to continue in some way, and HBO Max is rumored to be trying to pick up the show. So I can see either of those things happening, but if this was the end, I can't say I'm not surprised because Season 7, for as much as I love the first 3 episodes that were meant to be the finale of Season 6, was an aimless season. Now, I'm not going to say the show had a huge purpose or that it was highly serialized or that it had a really forthgoing plot. That's just not the kind of show it was. It was more Seinfeldian than that. It was very much a comedy of errors plot for 90% of the run. Most episodes are different plot threads that kind of build up and converge and go into chaos, and they just kind of reach a really fun punchline at the end of it. And that's pretty much the formula for the show, for as atypical the show can be. That's kind of the standard beat. Season 7 felt very limp in comparison. It had strong episode conceits, very fun opening acts, but then would eventually just fizzle out insanely hard. It felt like they were just half-formed ideas for episodes that they never really actually went out to develop or make as satisfying to watch as previous seasons. And that was a shame. That really was. So I'm not disappointed per se that got canceled. I did think that was running out of steam, but I am kind of saddened that it didn't have the chance to redeem itself or to conclude. And if it doesn't get picked up, if all this is just rumor about HBO Max, and if Adult Swim can't work anything out like they couldn't with Metalocalypse, then I'm more than happy with Arrears in Science, the finale to the Blue Morpho saga, as a grand finale, series finale, culmination of the show. Just something about that whole idea that the legacy and the lives and fates of the 2 characters, Blue Morpho and Jonas Venture, whose actions have kind of set in motion most of the characters' threads and most of the plot behind the scenes, have finally ended, that they've reached their ultimate fate. That kind of speaks to me. I think that is a good note to end it on. It's not conclusive in a general plot sense. There's so many things up in the air, but it did feel culminative. And I think that matters more than anything else for a show like this, that I don't think is ever going to have a really clean series finale, even if it does continue. And if it does continue and if there has to be any concessions, I do think that a Futurama direct-to-video style season would probably be the best. You know how Futurama, season 5 or something, was just 4 direct-to-video movies that they then chopped up into individual episodes, but you could still get the movies. I think that would really work for Venture Brothers, give it a lot more room to breathe for individual plot threads that eventually kind of, build into each other and reach some destination in the narrative. And I would love to see that. So fingers crossed for whatever happens. And if nothing happens, and if this is the end, then, rest in peace, Venture Brothers. I really do love that show. I do think that the first 6 seasons and the Blue Morpho finale of 3 episodes in season 7 is maybe the best show we've ever had that is a comic book pastiche. And it makes sense because Jackson Public worked on The Tick, and The Tick is also something that has shown really great skill at doing something like that. So anyway, let's move on to what I read this week. I actually only read one thing this week, and then I have notes on some other things. So first off, we have Rise of Ultraman #1, which is the reboot that Marvel Comics is doing for the Ultraman franchise to try and get Western fans. And yeah, that about sums it up. This is 100% definitely meant to only be an entry point for new fans. There is absolutely nothing else going on in this comic other than making it easy for people who are maybe unfamiliar with Ultraman and just want to, dip their toe into the franchise. That is the entire point of this. And that just means that while it's okay, it's definitely not breaking new ground, but that's not what it's trying to do. And the first things that come to mind are the manga/anime series that Netflix has, or Ultraman Great, or Ultraman Powered. And the reason those jump to mind, outside of a few plot and superficial details, is because, well, I guess there's a generic standardized playbook for how to reboot Ultraman, because honestly it feels very consistent with those, not in the bad way like Ultraman Powered, although there are hints that the Science Patrol in Rise of Ultraman might be as skeevy as Winter from Powered. I mean, it's not doing anything like Ultraman the Next or anything like that, which really does try to take a hardline stance away from what's usually seen in an Ultraman series, but also really kind of rerouting it to what makes that kind of concept really unique. While this one is just kind of going with the hits, or at least in comparison to Ultraman Great, trying to be a little more stylish and fun and just an easygoing adventure in the vein of old school Ultraman. And that's about it. There's really nothing to talk about it. It's not to say that the characters are uninteresting, or the setting is uninteresting, or the plot itself is boring, but it's pretty much just fluff. If you just want a good old-fashioned kind of sci-fi story with big, boisterous characters, then yeah, this is the comic for you. But overall, one thumb up, one thumb middle. Because even though I might seem a little down on it for, I guess, being really cliche-ridden and generic, that's what it's trying to be. And it does a really good job at it. And there's a reason why things are generic and why things are cliches. And next, even though I didn't read it, I did see a couple of choice pages because it became a meme and went viral a little bit on comics Twitter. We have Death Metal, Speed Metal from Joshua Williamson. And this one has gained some notoriety on comics Twitter because apparently Williamson is finally retconning Heroes in Crisis. And people are taking that as like a really good thing. But going from what he's actually written in those pages I saw, it's pretty much just borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, or the kettle calling the pot black, you know? It's very much two wrongs don't make a right. I don't know how many more idioms I can get out of this, because what happens is apparently Williamson is using Professor Zoom to explain why Wally and Barry have been at odds since Rebirth, and also to explain Wally's mental breakdown. And while that might be interesting in theory, I mean, regardless of the fact that even though Heroes in Crisis was executed terribly, it seems kind of redundant to the fact that, oh, it was just Professor Zoom whispering in his ear at supersonic speed. It's pretty much the only card Williamson has ever had to play in his entire run. Like, he is incredibly uncreative as shit. This is like the 5th time he's done it. He's like, every single time he writes himself into a hole, or he has to write something else out of a hole, it's Professor Zoom. And I know people get like a really great kick out of, oh, Professor Zoom, it was me, Barry type shit. And it was funny at first, and it can be really, really interesting and fun and exciting and thrilling when done well. It makes sense that Williamson would do it right now during Death Metal, because for him, it is so very much a Scott Snyder style crutch. Like, he has absolutely no idea what to do with the Flash, and I have no doubt that he's actually a genuine Flash fan. He seems very passionate about the character and about the mythology. But I could say the same thing about Scott Snyder for Batman, and that doesn't mean he isn't writing complete bullshit like Death Metal. Maybe if this is the first time we've seen Professor Zoom since, like, I guess, Rebirth, it would be, I don't know, pretty exciting. But the fact that we've seen Professor Zoom like dozens of times since then has really diluted what made moments like this impactful. I mean, even in Flashpoint, where Professor Zoom is like one of the most core focal points of the event, we don't see him until like the last 3 pages of the event. And then we learn in probably what is a really interesting twist that he didn't even do shit. And like, that was at least way more interesting than this, because by that point, we would have been expecting Professor Zoom to be behind it, because that had already been played out by then. And so yeah, that's why it gets me pretty tight, and honestly really exhausted to be like, oh, Professor Zoom again. We get it, he's petty. It's not effective when you do it again and again. It would have been more exciting and more interesting if it had been like the top going, oh, it was me this time. I caused Wally to go insane. Like, oh, shit, that might be actually pretty interesting. I wonder how he did that. But Professor Zoom, it's just an easy Band-Aid, and it really doesn't change anything, because you're still kind of reducing what Heroes in Crisis was even meant to be. And that's why I don't really agree with retconning Heroes in Crisis, because at the core, the idea is actually really interesting, and you can't salvage Heroes in Crisis by trying to take away from it or add to it. Because of how badly it was done, you just have to forget about it. Unless you're going to overhaul it or basically rewrite from like the ground up, just forget about it, because this kind of stuff is really lame. Like, oh, so the actually genuinely interesting and grounded idea that Wally might need some help coming to terms with the fact that his family has been erased, oh, that was just Professor Zoom driving him insane, and not something that we could actually develop and dig into and would make for an exciting and engaging and investful character drama. And that's why I don't really like it. So I really hope Williamson leaves the Flash soon. Is he leaving the Flash? I can't remember if he is. But after learning about and seeing pages from Speed Metal, I can't wait for that soon enough. Anyway, that's it for this week. The last thing I have to talk about is apparently New Mutants is going to be coming to HBO Max after it finishes its theatrical run. Now, I don't know when that is going to be, but it's a contract in place already. So whenever that happens, I guess I'll watch it and then review it. Anyway, that's it for this week. There was no listener questions. I just want to say thank you to everyone out there who's ever sent a question, comment, or topic. It means so much to me, and I'm really grateful. I really hope you all know that. And I want to give a shout out to Covers at DOTEMCE. Please check them out. They're amazing. And give them all the traction that you can. They really deserve it. I've recently released another unboxing video, this time looking at my Reign of the Superman Collector's Watch from 1993. Check that out. It's really fun, and I had a great time doing it. And I'm going to release in about a day or two my second retrospective on Smallville, this time covering season 2. And I had more fun doing that. I think I got more of the handle on it, and I think it's a little more entertaining. So be on the lookout for that. And again, thank you for listening. Have a great week. See you again next time.